Hi, I'm Manu Bansal, founder and CEO of Light Up Data. And today I'm going to talk to you about data ops and how to set yourself up for success with data operations. So why talk about data operations at all? Let's look at what's going on as the world is becoming more and more data driven. Here are a couple of stories from some of our customers where one of our retailer customers is using data to drive inventory decisions for what to stock in the stores next week. And late on a Friday, you discover that all the data is actually broken. So now you don't know what to actually put in those shelves by Monday. And guess what that means? Now the data team is sitting all weekend long trying to fix this data issue just in time, right? Or you're a food chain and you are dropping transactions as they're coming in from your restaurants back to the global data center, and so you're failing to award loyalty points to your users who are now making chargebacks, and you're losing credibility. Or you're a payment processor and you're making mistakes in bringing back data and sending it to the bank, so the payments are actually not getting fulfilled, and so now merchants are actually coming back and asking for compensation, right? So what's going on here in all the cases is broken data actually means broken customer experience. This is something new that we're seeing where data is now actually on the critical path of the business, right? And these problems are here and now, they're still happening. So clearly there's something missing in the way we are doing data ops, that these problems, which are so important to the business and directly in the path of customer experience, still exist and have not been solved yet, right? So that's why we need to talk about data operations. And I'm going to talk about why this is still a problem, what's the working definition of data operations that we can use to guide our way into becoming successful, and then give a solution recipe to set up data ops for success. So let's try and understand why this problem is not yet solved, right? It turns out that reliable data infrastructure does not guarantee reliable data. That's the evidence we just discussed. And despite all the tooling we have to run DevOps successfully and reliably, we're still ending up with broken data. The reason this is happening is because the data pipeline is a complex system, right? You have many different stages, many different entities that are working together to move data from source systems into finished results, which can finally be applied back into customer experience. And what's even more challenging is that despite all the monitoring, you can end up with this problem where you have good pipes carrying bad data. Imagine that you just don't have a value being populated in your data capture at the point of transaction. And now everything is working perfectly in moving that data, transforming it, and finally putting it to practice, but the value was actually incorrect or completely missing. Right? So that's a scenario where infrastructure is healthy, but the data is actually broken. So what that means is, despite our best efforts with DevOps, we can end up with broken data operations and broken data. Right? So it turns out DevOps is, of course, necessary for successful data ops, but it's not enough. Right? Machines being up and running, services being up and running does not guarantee that you will end up with good data. And while we have a lot of tooling for DevOps, we basically don't have anything to monitor content of data flowing through our pipelines. Right? So how do we go about solving this problem? Let's first maybe anchor down to a definition of data operations. If data ops is doing one thing well, it needs to be able to deliver good quality data reliably and consistently. Right? That's the bare minimum that we should expect out of data operations. We should be able to pick up data, transform it, and then serve it out to all stakeholders, whether these are internal consumers of data or these are customers that are directly receiving an experience based on this data. That's the one job we should be able to do as a data ops community, right? So with that definition, how do we go about solving this problem? Well, it turns out there's lessons we can borrow from DevOps, but it's not a simple lift and shift. We need to think carefully about how this changes when applied to data ops. So the first pillar and starting point of data ops success is coming up with a specification of what is considered successful data operation. right? So if you adopt the language that we have come to accept in DevOps, we're talking about defining SLAs on data. We're talking about defining service level objectives for data. Data should arrive in time. And this is what it means, right? It should arrive with a delay of no more than 15 minutes, for example. So that's the starting point. And then you need a system that lets you implement this specification into the right indicators for data quality and data reliability, right? So now we are talking about implementing service level indicators for health of data and a system that can continuously monitor those indicators as well as detect degradations in quality of data. And last but not the least, we need a system to route those incidents and then have a workflow around incident management, right? So this is a framework that's familiar from all the work we've done on the infrastructure side. It turns out to be the same concept on the data side too. And LightUp fills in that missing component in the middle, which is this data monitoring component. So with LightUp, you can now set up data quality indicators, which are the SLIs for data across your entire data landscape, where the system is continuously monitoring data for any issues. And the moment an issue is detected, an alert can be routed downstream into PagerDuty or say Slack or Teams, right? And what LightUp makes really easy for you is to be able to translate the service level objective specification for your data pipeline into data quality indicators. Now, why is this a challenge, right? The challenge here is that unlike monitoring CPU and memory, data monitoring actually requires you to define DQI specific to the data model on hand. There's no standardization, right? The retail company defines data differently and models it differently than the payment processing. So you need this ability so you can quickly go from your service level specifications into data quality indicators defined specifically for your data model. And that's what LightUp makes easy. You can measure all the different attributes you want for your data pipeline and health of data within that pipeline. Right? And that gives us the recipe for a minimum viable stack for DataOps success. Take LightUp, use that to set up data quality indicators, marry that with PagerDuty for alert and incident management, and there you have a basic setup that can get you started and get you very far with DataOps success. The key here is to get a system like LightUp that can get data quality indicators defined at the same rate that you evolve your data models. You can always stay one step ahead. Right? If this piques your interest, come talk to us, find more information at lightup.ai or write to us at that email. And we would be more than happy to get you started on your data reliability journey. Thanks for your time and hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.